Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today I'm extremely excited to be unboxing Mage Knight Ultimate Edition. Now this one is really special to me because literally this is one of the games that actually pulled me into solo gaming in the first place. I wouldn't have even created this channel had it not been for this particular game. This is the pinnacle of what a solo experience is all about, and the mechanics that make up Mage Knight are phenomenal, and the hand management system inside of this game meshed with the exploration of trying to go from a lowly warrior that does not have very much power to a knight of immeasurable power that is taking down towers and cities and dragons and all kinds of very strong enemies is such a cool progression through the story. There's a multitude of different solo options within this particular game, and I highly recommend this one as something to look into. The best part about it is this is a recently revised edition of Mage Knight. So most of us are familiar with the base game of Mage Knight, which was more of a rectangular box that has been around for quite some time. A big thank you to Ricky Royal, who produced some of the best solo play through videos as well as instructional videos for Mage Knight back in the day, which is again another reason why I got so wrapped up in solo gaming. That was one of the best introductions to Mage Knight that I've ever been introduced to in terms of a game, and it just sucked me in and also pulled the money right out of my wallet as fast as possible. What's really exciting about this one is the fact it's come back and it's been revised. So what you're going to see here is not a ton different in terms of content. So if you already own Mage Knight, the base game, and you have these 3 expansions which were picked up and able to be picked up later on, or I should say earlier on in the life of this particular game, then you already have what you need. The main thing that's coming along with this one that really is kind of a thank you to the fans essentially are these 5 new cards that are not found anywhere else but inside this Ultimate Edition. So that's one of the exciting factors of picking this one up, is getting those 5 additional cards. Now what I did was I already owned the base game and these 3 expansions, so I have sold that off as of 4, 5, 6 months ago when I heard about this one coming down the pipes, and now I've been waiting for this forever to show up, and it finally did. It's got all the expansions included, you get the extra cards, and of course the production of the actual game box and the components, I believe, have been stepped up a notch. One of the biggest complaints with Mage Knight was in the older version was you could purchase the base game, purchase Lost Legion and Krang, and for the most part, everything there card-wise was pretty good. When Shades came out, though, the problem with Shades was initially, in the first edition of that expansion, there were some issues with the color backing of the cards matching the color backing of the core set. So what ended up happening was, as cards were meshed together, it was you were able to distinguish which cards were going to be coming from the expansion without actually having the card flipped over. Now, it didn't spoil too much, but it was kind of a little bit of a nitpick, and it's something that kind of grinded a number of people because first off, they wanted uniform colors throughout their cards. But WizKids did get on it, and I even purchased the Shades original edition of the expansion and had that coloring problem, and they were able to provide me with replacements for it that actually matched the core game. So kudos to them for offering that to people. But the cool thing about Ultimate Edition is it takes all those problems and issues that were there in the past, plus gives you an extra 5 new cards and puts it all inside this big box. And I can tell you right now, you may not be able to tell from the picture on screen, but this thing is quite large. Now we're here for an unboxing, not necessarily to talk about the game, but I had to get that off my chest because my excitement for this game is off the charts. This is one of those ones that I pre-ordered with my local gaming store for many months, and I've been waiting for this thing to come out. Sold off my prior copy knowing it was on its way, and can't wait to show you guys what to expect inside this box and maybe what it looks like in difference to the prior one. So I've already gone ahead and removed off the wrap so that we don't have to do that on camera. Wow, does this ever bring back some serious memories looking at this. So first off the top here, we've got the rule book. So we've got a rule book here, which is going to include, as well as not just the regular rule book, but the new dual colored action cards that come inside of the Ultimate Edition. So a write-up of how they work. You can see they're split 50-50 on the page there, which is really, really interesting. And then of course, the best part about this Ultimate Edition is the revised rule books. So the rule books have and do kind of continue along in the same similar vein in terms of their structure and look, but the contents of the rulebook have been revised in order to be more clear and more thorough on the rules. But again, I honestly highly advise that if you're getting into Mage Knight, check out Ricky Royal's playthrough for this particular game because it's phenomenal. And that's the original playthrough for solo play that you'd want to see. This one here has a game walkthrough all the way through that'll get you into the game, the setup and everything else. This is something that I would really like to cover on the channel in the future. I don't have a particular time frame as to when I like to do this, but I purchased this specifically because I really think it'd be fun to play through Mage Knight together as a group. It's one of the solo classics. It's in my Hall of Fame, and I've done top 10 lists in the past where Mage Knight has sat in there, and I really, really want to show you guys more about this. So the Ultimate Edition also has expansion rulebook. It's really great because it sums up all the original expansions that were all in separate pamphlets, puts them all together in one neat and nice space. You've got a bunch of different rule books, but you also have the game walkthrough too. So walkthrough, the dual colored action cards, the expansion rule books for the expansions as you want to add them in, and I highly recommend to wait on those until you get the core game down. And then of course the core game rule book as well as a reference card for all the wonderful enemies and tokens that you're going to deal with going through this adventure. So now we're going to dive into the cardboard components, which are all sealed in plastic wrap, which I've already removed. You've got the Fame and Reputation board here, which to me looks a little bit crisper in terms of its print. It does look exactly the same as the original one. I don't see anything that distinguishes itself differently than the original one. It might be a bit bigger, or it might be exactly the same. It's been a bit. So either way, again, it's brand new and printed, so I believe the quality of the print is higher, and I think WizK is trying to up its production quality as well. So this definitely shows the game. This one actually, this Fame track actually has a really nice sheen to it as well. You can tell it's like a high quality print on this particular cardboard, so it looks really, really good. Quite happy with that. Then we get into the game tiles, and this is where we could go on for a while. Some of the coolest parts of Mage Knight is exploring a world just one step at a time as you move through all these hexes. Basically, these spaces represent different areas. They all have different effects and events and things you're going to run into, cities, all kinds of different things that are going to be advantageous to the explorer or potentially try to hinder you, as well as all kinds of enemies surrounding all over the place these different boards. So of course there's a bunch of these. These are skills that you can advance with on the far side. So I'll quickly just go through all these with you, although just to let you know, the punch out is really well done to the point that these things really want to fall out. So they might pop out even when I'm flipping them over, but you can see when you flip them to the opposite side, these ones here are all nice and green. Now the other thing too to mention is I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe in those prior old expansions, another critique of those expansions when they were originally released was that I think some of the backs of these particular tiles were discolored from the core game to the expansions. So that was another thing that was kind of a disadvantage, that you would kind of know that a particular tile might be coming out from a certain expansion. Things like that occurred in those original versions, but here everything's been cleaned up. So this is the edition that you'd want to have if you want to have everything perfect and not have to worry about any of that. Of course, most of it they fixed, as I mentioned. So you've got a whole bunch more tiles, so we'll go through these quickly, but you're going to see all kinds of different terrain. You're going to see mountains. You're going to mountains, Gandalf. No, you're going to see mountains, castles. You're going to see all kinds of plains you can explore, desert regions. There's little areas where you can go down into caves. Of course, all these swords here represent different types of enemy tokens that will be placed on these particular places as you go through. It's such a good game, and it's been way too long since I've played this, and it would be so much fun to show you guys this on the channel. So here is this sheet here. Flip this over, move on to the next. We have this here. You can see things are changing. We got monasteries, cities. We've got these mage towers, like all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. And again, it's probably not better to explain the components in this particular video, as this is an unboxing, but there is a lot to look at here. And I can tell you right now, the quality of the actual print now, I think, on these particular locations is much higher than it was the first time around. I think this looks a lot crisper. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm glad that the production seems to have gone up. You'll notice that the backs of these particular ones we're getting into now are a different color, but that's on purpose as the game kind of progresses in stages and you don't move into particular colors backs of those tiles until you progress further on into your adventure. You've got mazes that can occur that you can go through. It's just, oh man, this brings back so many good memories of playing this thing. I remember playing this before I actually had a basement finished. It's been that long. So at that particular time, I was literally playing on a Costco table in the corner with insulation in my face, and there was nothing around me. It was freezing. My feet were on the cement, and I had this thing sprawled out on a Costco table playing through solo. It was amazing. And the coolest thing now is that I'm doing a channel that's devoted to solo gaming. I'm unboxing a game that's a revised edition, sitting in a room that's fully furnished, and the basement is done, and I'm actually literally unboxing this edition in the exact same spot that I was playing this particular original game in back in the day. So it's super cool. It just brings back so many good memories. So whole bunch of tokens. Again, everything's gotten fancy. You got some expansion stuff that's going to be mixed in here as well, because of course the expansions are part of this. So it's going to be hard to differentiate for you guys everything that's core versus expansion. But if we get to a video in the future, I can go ahead and help you with that. So we've got all kinds of tiles, just ridiculous amounts. The other cool thing about Mage Knight that I always loved was that they had a nice tile here representing all the different costs of movement, and of course a wonderful day and night cycle. So you could see that, you know, whether you're in there for the daytime or the nighttime, it actually felt like an adventure, which is awesome. So this is what the inside insert looks like for Mage Knight Ultimate Edition. A huge step up from the prior one, because now your minis, which another great advantage too is that these minis come painted. They're already painted. Now, they're not going to be to the highest standard ever, but they're not going to be to the lowest standard ever either. So once I get this thing to focus for you guys, I'll show you that there's good detail here and it looks really nice. So I'm impressed. These are definitely table worthy, and I have no problems with going ahead and playing these out of the box. Coolest thing is there's a space to actually place them now. In the old versions of Mage Knight, I literally had baggies upon baggies and compartments and cardboard boxes with all these things just chucked in there. It's nice to have an actual insert where you can put all your figures back in so they don't get beat up too bad. Oh, you've got the Lost Legion expansion main enemy here. Looking pretty awesome for those of you that remember that one. So I'll try to get the focus on that, but you can see the quality of this thing. Pretty good. Pretty good, I gotta say. Not bad. I mean, there's a little bending there, but again, some hot water and stuff like that, I might be able to fix that, although hot water on these particular miniatures might not be a good idea because there's already some paint and things like that on them, but I'm pretty impressed. So some of them are really good looking, and some of them are kind of okay. Like this one I would consider, in terms of its quality and stuff like that, this one looks okay. It's not as good as the other ones were, but some of them really stick out. Actually, the majority of them really do, to be honest. That one's actually probably the least of the rest. But the other thing I'm noticing too is the paints that they chose to use on these. They have a nice shimmer effect. Like really, it's really cool actually. I like that a lot. Like this guy here in his shield. Like check this out. The silver that they use on this guy. He's kind of hiding behind his shield here. That's really good. I'm quite happy with that. The detail on it's pretty good. Here's Krang. Krang's a really cool character. This is one of the expansion characters. Most of you will remember this one. Again, like decent, like really good detail on the small spots of this particular miniature. Like impressive for a pre-painted game. The cities, let me see how much better the cities look. Okay, the cities actually have some paint on them. They're not just standard. So I think, if I remember correctly, the cities in the old game, did not have any type of paint on them at all. I think they were just bare bones plastic with some color like red, green, blue like this one does. But you can see there in the details, they've actually put kind of a wash over it, I guess. But a little bit of paint, just enough to kind of like bring out some of the brick details to give it that, like, you know, a little bit of a ruined look, a little bit of a worn look, like a city would actually look from the distance. Very cool. Pretty impressive. And of course, for those of you that aren't familiar, these things use a really interesting system where you're using a base here, which may or may not show up here focus-wise that great, but essentially on the base there's some information in the middle of that base, and you can turn the base around. It kind of clicks into position. It will tell you how many enemies of what different types are going to be in that city that you're going to have to defend against based on the scaling of the game, which is a whole other ball of wax. So we're going to move past the miniatures now that I've gone through the majority of those ones, not all of them, but most of them, and we'll talk about some of the cards and the other components within this Ultimate Edition. Okay, so in my copy of the game, you might have noticed that there's these little pieces kind of all around here. So the silica gel pack, or whatever you call this thing, basically broke open in my box, but the good news is everything inside of this box is sealed. So these things are just basically rolling around the insert. After the unboxing, I'll simply dump it into a garbage can. We're good to go. They don't, it didn't bleed out onto everything. There's no issues there at all. But my particular pack happened to have a hole in it. It got cut open and somehow magically everything spilled out. So I think you can see it up here. It actually mostly landed over here. And it's extremely easy to just go ahead and pop those in the garbage. But everything else is sealed, so there's no worries about anything being messed up. The coolest thing with Mage Knight, I think, is the dice. I really like the dice a lot. I don't know why. They're just super small, and they feel really cool to roll. It sounds kind of silly, but I love, love, love these dice. And you roll these basically during the gameplay to allow you to spend different types of mana and things like that. And it's just really cool to see the different effects of each of these icons or emblems as they come up and how they affect your hand management and everything like that. So it's really, really cool. Quite happy with the quality of these ones in comparison to the other ones. I don't think they're a step up. They might be exactly the same, but they look pretty similar. So I don't think there's too much of a change there. So that is the dice for Mage Knight. We also have these. Now, this was one thing that I was kind of hoping that they would actually upgrade, but they didn't. And what I prefer are those gems. I don't know if I'm describing this best, but you can purchase these gems online that are basically, they look like crystals, and they're almost see-through and transparent. And I find those to be a much better version of a token than the ones that show up in the typical Mage Knight game. So these ones are actually not bad. So again, they're going to correlate to the different types of mana, basically, that you're using and spending throughout the game. And you're going to gain these and spend these and all that kind of stuff. They're also going to help control your solo or AI deck as well. So they have many different uses, but I just like, for some reason, having them as gems. And they basically are supposed to be gems. They are. They don't do a bad job. They have a flat bottom so that you can actually put them standing straight up and down like this. So they work perfectly fine. It's just they're a little cloudy. They don't have that clarity or that gleaming gem kind of feeling that I feel like they should have had. So if anything should have been upgraded in this components-wise, I think that should have changed just to make it a little bit more exciting. But these look exactly the same as the prior ones, but there's nothing wrong with them. And that's just a super minor gripe on my part. We got 4 stacks of cards here that we have to go through. Now, I might not go through every single one of these. And then we've got a couple baggies, of course, once you start breaking things into. I'll probably need more baggies. But the other cool thing with this insert, just so you guys are aware of this, I'll remove these. Look at the insert on this one. Perfect. Literally has perfect pocket sizes for everything. All the tokens have certain areas. Of course, some of the tokens are circular, so they're going to go in these tubes right here. Some of them are square. They can sit here. You've got dice areas here. You've got your tile inserts here. Like, everything has a spot. So this is perfect. You're not going to need to go ahead and pick up an insert for this game. The insert's already here. That is a huge jump up from the original versions that didn't have anything of a decent insert and was literally worth just, I don't even know if it actually had an insert, and if it did, I believe I tossed it instantly because it was so bad. So this is a massive improvement on what was already in the box. All right, so here's an example of one of the decks, and I'll just kind of basically skim through some of the cards so that you can get a feel for what the artwork looks like. It is really, really good. And you'll see here you've got kind of the symbolism of the different type of mana that you're using and things like that as you go through. I keep calling it mana. It might actually be mana, or it might be something else. I forget. Yeah, it is mana. Okay, I was right. It's been a bit since I've actually played it, but again, the artwork's really, really good. I always enjoyed the artwork on the cards, and it fit really well with what you were actually accomplishing in the game. It always seemed to line up and tell a story as you played the game. So the mechanics really gel, and that's one of the biggest things with this game. The reason why people love it so much is the feeling it gives you as you play the cards, that the actual cards themselves kind of draw into the story of what you're actually trying to accomplish on the game board. And it's such a great synergy. Not only that, the solo AI in this game is second to none. It's fantastically implemented, and literally I have not run into another solo card variant that really beats it. My love for it is extremely high, so if you have any kind of opportunity to check that out, definitely do. I might at some point, as I said, during my playthrough, be able to show you that, because I would be playing in the solo capacity, but it really is fantastic. So again, you're going to have some duplication of some of the cards because some of them are more common. We might even run into the 5 cards that we're all kind of dying to see, which is the brand new 5 cards that come in this edition versus not showing up at all in the other edition. So we'll see whether or not we happen to run into those or if they ever show up. So I'm just going to kind of slide through the majority of these cards, not really explain too much about them, because I could go on for hours. But you're going to get into, here's some like magic based ones. You got like fireballs, and I love the artwork in this game. It's so good. Cards are so colorful. In terms of the quality of the cards, they feel about the same. I don't think there might be a jump up in color correction, maybe, or something like that. They do look a little crisper. Oh, this looks very different. Yeah, I think these ones definitely have had a change of print color and shading. I don't think it was this crisp on the prior cards. I could be wrong, it's been a bit, but these ones look really good. So quite happy with that so far. So I'm not going to go ahead and probably go through this deck, because I believe this deck might be the exact same similar types of cards that we just saw. What I'll maybe do is I'll cut into this other one that looks like it's more about reference cards and things like that to show you. Now, I can tell you this game has a whole bunch of cards for reference. And then, of course, a whole bunch of wound cards, which you can see right there. They're not that exciting because, well, actually, they look really cool. But basically, they clutter up the game, and you have to essentially try to rid these wounds out of your hand in order to keep yourself from dying. It's one of the mechanics in the game that I really like, is you fill your hand full of wounds. And some of the heroes actually, use their abilities to actually gain wounds to use them to help them out. But look at this. You can see all the different reference cards. This is the reason why a lot of people struggle to learn Mage Knight, because it requires all of these particular reference cards to learn all the different areas and how they actually interact with you. And until you've played it a number of times, this stuff will not be on the tip-top front of your brain. That you'll have to go and reference this stuff through the rulebook or through these cards, and then some of these things relate to the cities that you're actually taking down as well and stuff like that. So it's really cool that they put these reference cards in, because honestly, without them, I think a lot of people would be buried in the rulebook for hours, if not already. So here are the wound cards. They all look relatively the same, but basically they have a standard back and they end up going in your deck when you take wounds. There's a ton of them because, of course, you need to have wound cards. I'm just going to go quickly to the back of this deck to see whether or not the magical cards that we're all... Ooh, there they are. Found them. Look at that. So here we go. Here are the 5 cards that we've all been waiting for. Power of the Crystals. So I'm just going to give you a second so you can kind of take that card in. If you need to pause the screen, read it, see what it's all about. That is one of the 5. Rush of Adrenaline, another split 50-50 card where you can use, I'm assuming, either type of mana, red or green. So I'll give you a second to kind of take that in. For those of you that are really interested in these 5 new cards and what they do, see whether or not they're something extremely powerful. So for those of you that have been playing Mage Knight recently, you'll be able to look at these cards instantly and be able to tell whether or not these are going to be great upgrades for you if you want to pick up the Ultimate Edition. So this is exciting. These are really cool looking. Ooh, a mysterious box. I don't know if I remember that from the first one. Is that one of the 5? It might be. Interesting. All right, so the rest of them are going to follow in the same vein as the cards I showed you, but not all of them will be the same. Like we've already seen Rage a few times, but there's other cards in here that we haven't run across yet. Like, there we go. So some of them are very standard because they're going to be your standard deck to start, like March, Stamina. Those are standard cards and things like that. And then you're going to get to certain cards that are going to be much powerful versions of those particular basic cards and things like that, and everything upgrades over time. Go past these right here, which we've already seen a number of them. So here we go. Yes, I forget what these ones are called again. Yeah, there's different levels of basically upgraded cards you can get. There's banner cards and all these different... So these are some of the really powerful cards and stuff like that. And it's been so long that I've actually forgotten the terminology. But these have some incredible artwork too. And this initiative, again, something else to say about Mage Knight that's cool, is the fact that when you're pulling a starting card, you get essentially an advantage for your particular day that you're going into. So you can choose Early Bird, Rethink. They all have different kind of abilities to help you during your coming day, and usually you pick these based on what you're trying to accomplish in that day. And these even matter when you're playing solo, because you'll pick one and then you'll shuffle the deck and pull one out and throw it away, because the AI is going to take one and steal it away from you. So it's really cool how they implemented the AI in this, because it really does emulate another opponent extremely well. Then you've got, of course, the dusk version when the day and night board flips over. You've got allies. This is what I really remembered just now, and the reason why I opened this pack again is because there are all these allies you can basically get that you're going to need in order to take down the monsters and the cities and the land. You're going to need these cards that are going to help you try to get through the game, and some of them are extremely powerful. You're going to have guardsmen that you're going to be able to pick up, or swordsmen and things like this. And then you get into like golems you can have, and they give you fire blocks and ice blocks and all this kind of stuff. And you can tell right away when you look at a terminology like fire block 4 and those icons, you instantly are going, what does that mean? And that's where you need those reference cards in the rule book to figure that stuff out. So the game's got some advanced iconography that you're going to have to learn to follow as you go through it. But once you do, it is one of the most rewarding solo experiences you can possibly imagine. I'd highly recommend, if you haven't tried it, to at least borrow a copy from a friend and try it. Or, I mean, if you're gun-ho, pick up the Ultimate Edition. You'll have everything you need. Here are character cards. These are exciting. So here are a number of different characters you can be. Of course, they all correlate to the miniatures that we just looked at. So let's kind of go through them pretty quickly anyway. And of course, there's going to be other ones from the expansions, things like that. More skill card references, more location references. Goes on and on and on. Now we've got one more pack to go through. So we've got this far. We might as well crack into this one just in case there's something in here you guys haven't seen yet. And that will end the unboxing. So again, this is really, really special for me anyway, because it just brings back, as I mentioned, so many memories. And even as I go through these cards, it just continually keeps bringing back memories. So again, bunch of standard cards, then you start getting into some interesting ones throughout. The artwork is so good. Love it. Cards, they leave so much space for the art so that it really pops, but they also leave enough space for all the really important stuff at the bottom of the card. It's a perfect balance of font and the look in cards and the feel and everything. It's just, it's great. It's good to have you back, Mage Knight. It's been a while, and I'm looking forward to diving in again, seeing if we can conquer some cities, take down some dragons, become all powerful again. Here's some more, here's some seriously powerful people that you can add into, like sorcerers, heroes. You're getting into some big, big stuff now. And here's a couple more characters that you can be. Of course, they've got their cards for their skills included. Some of these, of course, are tied to expansions, so they have all these reference cards for the expansion stuff. Yep, I think that's from the Lost Cities. Is it called the Lost Cities? Lost Legion, my mistake. Rage. Yeah, and some of these are basic cards again, some of them aren't. Interesting. Ah, here we go. This is from the Shades expansion. So he's a really cool character. Awesome. All right, I'm quite happy. Overall, production quality, nice jump up. Only knock I would say about this one, literally the only knock I have, is that I really think they should have gone to transparent gems with this one and made these much, much better looking than they are. They're fine. They'll do fine. You won't get them and say these are ugly. They still look like crystals. They still work and they're very cool. But now game components have gotten to a point where I think that was a spot where they could have blinged things out just an extra level, but it also doesn't hurt to go online and find a replacement for these particular colors. It really wouldn't be that hard or expensive. So that is going to wrap up the unboxing for the Ultimate Edition of Mage Knight. Definitely highly recommended, and I cannot wait to get this game to the table in the future. Hopefully you guys will join me, and of course there's already an amazing playthrough of the original edition from Ricky Roy out there that you can check out. out if you're interested in finding out more in advance. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully it's helpful in your decision as to whether to pick this up or not. And I'll see you in the next episode. As always, keep on rolling solo.